early this spring, a deadline that has cost taxpayers millions of dollars to help meet. But despite their investment, Hong Kong's new airport will not be ready until July, 2 months later than planned. The expensive delay has drawn plenty of criticism, but are there other costs we should know about? Inside Story's Susan Yu investigates one of the most challenging moves Hong Kong has ever faced. As she tells us, some are literally buying time in order to meet the new grand opening date.
We have decided to open it on 6th of July. This will be a marvelous facility. It will be our first-class, world-class airport.
Well, I think we were disappointed. Obviously, we stand to lose some revenue from the period April through July, but we abide by the decision that was made by the government.
How much revenue are we talking about? Ballpark figure?
Well, it's hard to say because the customer base is not established yet, but in terms of investment, we have invested over $20 million to date in the operation at CLK. And obviously we were looking to get a return on that investment as soon as possible.
Mackenzie Grant is the managing director for Ogden Aviation. While the company is well established globally in providing aviation services, it's a new player in Hong Kong. His disappointment is shared by many.
It has caused some of our potential customers to delay making a decision because they feel they have 2 months to play with. And that's a cause of some concern, but I guess we have to expect to overcome these difficulties in the business.
With no revenue coming in, companies like Ogden stand to lose more than just money.
Do you actually have staff on the payroll
as
of April?
Yes, we do. We have a number of staff on board, although we were deferring the majority of our hiring until 90 days prior to the airport opening. And we've pushed that date back, so we will not be hiring the bulk of our staff until 90 days before the airport opens.
Since the government never announced the exact opening date in April, it's free from claims for compensation, since it now has technically given franchises the required 3 months' notice regarding when the new airport will be opened. Eric Lee should be happy about that, but he isn't. As chairman of the Provisional Legislature's Public Accounts Committee, he monitors how the government spends. He says in the long run, it's the Hong Kong people who'll pay the price for the government's indecision.
But what about companies that haven't set up at Chak Lap Kok and kind of got stuck because technically they got the 3 months notice, but at the same time, they cannot claim for compensation.
Yes.
What happens to those people?
Well, a lot of them can complain to me that they will be stuck with a lot of debt overhead.
How much?
It varies from operator to operator. Each franchisees would have been stuck with, for example, they would have employed somebody for 2 months, and the salaries will go down the drain. Many of the franchisees who are all geared up to open the shops and start operation in April are now have a lot of hidden costs, which is either have to be borne by themselves or will have to be translated in terms of some of the employees having to lose their job for at least a little while longer.
So there is no recourse for them whatsoever?
No recourse. It's a hidden cost for the community, again, which is not shown in the government figures.
For Hong Kong's roughly 1,000 freight forwarding companies, their situation is an unsure one. They say they've been told all along by the airport authority that all air cargo facilities would be shut down, along with Kai Tak. But now,
the Hong Kong Air Freight Forwarder Association, along with HACTO, had made a decision to propose to the government, the airport authority and the financial secretary as far back as 2 years ago, because they see that it was quite necessary, not only for the consignee and the shipper, but also for the freight forwarder to retain some kind of logistic running center within a downtown operation. But most disappointingly, unfortunately, it was only in December when the government property agency had announced that they would accept bid for the renewal running of Terminal 2. And this really, I think, is the core of why it's causing all these chaos and confusion among, or should I say, really needless chaos and confusion.
It would be a shame for the air cargo industry as a whole if it was not used properly. The facility will revert to government when we move out. There's a danger it could sit idle for many years while somebody tries to make up their minds what to do with it.
While the future of Terminal 2 is in the air, Hechtel is busy planning on the ground for its big move to its $8 billion Super Terminal 1 facilities at Chek Lap Kok. But even that monumental task has been snagged by red tape.
It would certainly be a great help to us if, for example, some vehicles that are not licensed for the roads were able to move directly on their own without having to be loaded onto lorries or something. They could use the public roads to go directly to Chek Lap Kok. I'm talking about things like, we call them dollies. They're the little carts that the aircraft containers sit on when the containers are being transported out to the aircraft. There are something like over 2,000 of those carts that have got to be moved from Kai Tak to Chek Lap Kok. Naturally, it would be very beneficial if they could go on their own wheels to Chek Lap Kok rather than having to have the problem of loading them onto lorries to transport them. The police and the transport department, I believe, although discussions are still in the very early stage, are saying that the roads linking Kai Tak to Chek Lap Kok have still got to be available for the general public on that overnight move, which could cause problems.
These are little things that will have a large impact. Does that concern you at all?
Definitely, this is one of the concerns that I've had for some time, because we have only one major access to the airport, that is, the Chiang Mai Bridge, etc. And if we have to let people like Hechtel to go through a lot of hassle to get their trucks and their vehicles, to be operational for their service, this is not desirable. I think all this must be ironed out before the opening of the airport.
We requested an interview with the airport authority. It declined to talk to us about issues concerning coordination and even security. Industry sources tell us the government-run aviation security company, or AVSECO, is ill-prepared for what's ahead. Difficulties, insiders say, range from not having proper expertise, since none of AVSECO's managers has aviation security experience, to convincing current security staff at Kai Tak to join them. Training and pay packages are also an issue. At the current rate, industry sources say out of the 2,200 staff needed at Chek Lap Kok, AVSECO will be able to actually hire just over a third of that number. Like the airport authority, our request for a television interview with AVSECO was declined. It says it would be premature to discuss these matters. However, it later decided to respond by fax to some of the concerns raised. AVSECO insists it will not experience a shortfall, adding it has recruited 1,300 officers from Secure Air and that it's optimistic the rest can be hired from the market. It also admits its greatest challenge is setting up a large company from scratch in a short period of time, but it maintains it's making good progress. But it's understood even the airlines aren't betting on AVSECO, according to industry sources. They say serious doubts remain over whether adequate arrangements will be in place by even July. One major company that will be operating out of Chek Lap Kok told us that it's even looking into providing its own security as insurance.
Does that frighten you a bit?
Well, I think security is one of the top issues that we must look at. We like this to be well coordinated rather than having it, handled by several parties. Because if that's the case, anything happens, then we will be facing kind of a chaotic situation, which we would not like to see.